Welcome back to the Newt News podcast. Daniel Guerrero is joining us for a special episode to talk all things prospects and the World Baseball Classic. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that Newt News merch is now available. Link in the description. We've got shirts, hoodies, and caps available, and any purchases greatly help us to keep the show running. Let's get on with it. All right, so welcome to the podcast, Dan. Really excited to have you on. We're going to start off with some quick hitters, like we always do with our guests. Get to know you a little bit better. So we got four for you today. Your favorite all-time Cardinal player, your favorite current Cardinal player, your favorite all-time player that's not affiliated with the Cardinals, and your favorite team that's not the Cardinals.
Okay, I'll start with, I guess, favorite all-time player. I'm gonna have to think of just let the favorite all-time Cardinal marinate. But favorite all-time player is Vladimir Guerrero. I mean, I grew up in Anaheim, going to Angels games, and when Vladdy got to Anaheim, that was insane. I mean, he was the first Hall of Famer on that. I mean, first player from the first Angel Hall of Famer, right? I mean, he was an MVP for them. I mean, so he was cool to see. His style of play was amazing. I guess so. I guess that answers. I mean, growing up, I was an Angels fan, but I guess favorite team. I guess I'll go outside of baseball for this one, and the Mexican national soccer team is, I'd say, favorite just because culturally and just what it means to support it, and also, I mean, it's frustrating because the team could be better, but kind of the way the system is set up right now and the organization is kind of holding back their success. Favorite Cardinal? I've never really thought about this one. I don't want to cheat and say David Eckstein just because I liked him as an Angel growing up. I mean, there are a handful of Angels, right, that you could choose in this spot as well. But favorite Cardinal, you know what? I'll say Bob Gibson. I mean, what he did for the sport and the way he really transformed pitching and literally changed the rules of the game. I mean, they had to lower the mound because of him. I mean, Bob Gibson's one of the greatest of all time. And yeah, so I mean, I'll go with Gibby for that one. What was the third one?
Favorite current Cardinal.
Favorite current Cardinal. That's a good question. Favorite current Cardinal. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of excellent players in that clubhouse, a lot of cool personalities too. Man, this is a tough question. I guess, I mean, maybe I'll go with the newest Cardinal. I'll go Jordan Walker. I mean, just because it's very exciting to see him get this opportunity on opening day. I mean, everybody that I've met in that clubhouse has been really great. I mean, really cool to talk to. But I mean, I'll go with him just because, I'll ride the Jordan Walker wave of into opening day as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned your affinity with the Angels growing up in Anaheim, and we just saw the conclusion of the World Baseball Classic last week, which is we've been covering that here on Newt News recently, and it was just so exciting to see who I think are the two best players in the game face off for the final at bat with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. So, could you maybe what were your thoughts on the conclusion of the World Baseball Classic and just the excitement in general? It's been really great for the game.
I mean, the ending itself, it's the one that I feel like people talked about in the beginning of there's a chance that Shohei Ohtani could pitch to Mike Trout in the bottom of the ninth inning bottom or top of the ninth inning with Japan leading and a chance to clinch it, and Mike Trout standing in the way of that. So I mean, it's cool to see. I mean, it's funny because even looking back at the World Cup, right, where everybody's talked about how great of a finish that was, and it was. I mean, Messi winning the World Cup. And as much as it hurt me, I mean, especially with, seeing Mexico not even get past the group stage, that World Cup finish, I mean, right, was amazing. But people had remember talking about where it's oh man, there's a chance that it's a Ronaldo versus Messi World Cup final, which, is the dream scenario. But this was the dream scenario where it's Team Japan, their superstar unicorn player who has really, I mean, become the best player in the world, not just in MLB, but just in the world, facing off against the player who everybody had said for the last decade is the best player in the world and who happened to be teammates. I mean, and that at bat, I mean, full count, Shohei Ohtani threw, I mean, probably one of the best sliders of his career. Hit triple digits against Mike Trout, swung and missed 3 times, which has only happened. I saw this stat on Twitter where it's only happened, like 26 times in his career, where he swung and missed on 3 pitches in an at bat. So it's a great finish to what was a great tournament. I think it was amazing for the sport, right? I know people did not value it as much and saw it as just meaningless exhibition games in spring in March. And when Edwin Diaz got hurt and Freddie Freeman got hurt, it drew a lot of criticism from people who just I'd classify as people who don't like to have fun. But you saw what this meant to players. You saw what this meant to countries. Especially like I've seen in Mexico, and it's like I've seen on TikToks, or I've heard from family that lives there. You see kids getting excited about baseball and getting excited about Randy Arozarena and all these guys who kind of broke through from Mexico. Even I have a cousin who doesn't mean he'll follow a little bit of Angels baseball just because that's something on my family that lives in the US like that. There's a lot of Angels fans, right? So he'll kind of keep up to keep those conversations going. But he mainly just follows soccer. Club soccer, national soccer, whatever it is. And I remember telling him at the beginning of the tournament, like, hey, dude, Mexico's playing Colombia today, World Baseball Classic. And he didn't know and he didn't watch. I told him, like, hey, dude, they're playing the US tomorrow. It's going to be a big game. The US is like this powerhouse team. Obviously, when it comes to soccer, like that's the huge rivalry. US versus Mexico. He didn't watch, but he saw the score and he's like, dude, I can't believe they won. And then he literally watched every Mexico game from that and was texting me throughout the tournament, probably watching more closely than I did, just because like runs like that, Mexico getting to the semifinals was, kind of sparked this baseball fandom in a country that's already has baseball fandom, but it kind of heightened it. And we're seeing that, right? We saw kids. I remember there was something on Instagram about like some kids in elementary school in I think in London, right? They're replicating the Harry Ford home run celebration for Great Britain. So it's cool to see. I think it's great for the sport. And that finish is just the icing on the cake or the cherry on top to all of it.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I know you brought up the World Cup with Messi and Ronaldo, and that was the matchup I was really pulling for in that event. And I was sad when Portugal got eliminated, but we got it here in the World Baseball Classic. We've seen how much it means to so many like of the other countries with like Japan, especially. We got the Prime Minister of Japan doing the pepper grinder, which is really, really exciting for us here. But to segue off of that, this is a question I have to ask every writer that comes on the show. So I apologize in advance, but there's been some development on this recently. So we saw in the Japanese dugout that Lars Nootbaar and Shohei Ohtani have seemingly become best friends overnight. Like they've just been together all the time. You can see them like dancing in the dugout. So has Lars Nootbaar recruited Shohei Ohtani to the Cardinals? And will Shohei Ohtani come to the Cardinals?
Well, I don't know about the first one, and I hate to speculate, right? I don't want to mislead anybody in what I know, so I really don't know. I wasn't in Jupiter when Lars got back, so I wasn't able to to ask that question or see find out and do some journalistic digging, I guess. But as far as Shohei Ohtani coming to the Cardinals, man, that is the huge question, right? Because he is entering this very important year for him. Final year of his contract with the current contract with the Angels, could be a free agent. And I don't know. I think there are going to be a lot of teams, a lot of suitors ready to, in a way, back up the Brinks truck for Shohei Ohtani, like we've seen with some other players. Now, where do the Cardinals fit in that equation? I really don't know. But I think that's something we'll learn more about this season, right? Where it's like, because we could be in a situation where we're talking about Shohei Ohtani at the end of July, right? Let's say the Angels are slow out of the gate, don't really pick it up, and by the All-Star break or close to the trade deadline, say they're 15 games out out of the division, 8 back in the wild card or from the last wild card spot, and they're in a position to sell. I mean, that changes the whole equation of where Shohei Ohtani ends up, because then you're looking at teams that have farm depth and that are really willing to give that up. Now, the Cardinals fit that first, I guess, description, right? A team that has farm depth. Now, is that something they'd be willing to give up? I mean, I think we'll see how the season goes to figure that out. Just because, I mean, the Cardinals were in a position to, last summer, right, with Juan Soto on the trade market, and the Padres sold the farm for 2.5 seasons of Juan Soto, and obviously the chance to extend him and the chance to win a World Series. Cardinals did not. I mean, there it was a huge, I guess, low prospect load they would have to given up. So I mean, it makes sense to hold on to that, and we're seeing one of those guys that was in the middle of those talks make the opening day roster, right? So I mean, I think we'll know more about not just Ohtani's situation as we get into the summer, but also if the Cardinals could be potential traders or suitors next winter for him.
Right there, you mentioned Jordan Walker, not quite by name, but this is a really exciting time for Cardinals fans, seeing as he's made the roster. And I just wanted to ask you what your initial reaction was to that happening and how you think his season's going to go.
I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like we came into spring talking about, what could Jordan Walker do? I mean, we knew the spring was going to be one for, and I think John Mozeliak made it clear that this is going to be one that if you like prospects, it's going to be an exciting spring, because there were so many guys who left for the WBC, so many guys who got chances in the Grapefruit League in innings and at bats that wouldn't have been there if Adam Wainwright and Miles Michaelis stayed in camp, and if Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado stayed in camp. And same thing with the other guys that on the big league team that participated in the tournament. So, and also you come into this year, it's like Cardinals made that splash of getting Wilson Contreras. That's that third bat in the order they needed. And you think, okay, well, I mean, a lot of teams have fourth bats. I mean, you look across the National League and see these high spenders, and you look at the Padres and you look at the Phillies, where you have these, middle of the orders that expands beyond 3 hitters, or like 3, impact bats. And you come into the spring thinking, well, I mean, could Jordan Walker be that guy? Obviously that's a lot to put on the shoulders of a 20-year-old kid, basically, someone who, is still growing and still developing. And I mean, yeah, I mean, he stood out. I mean, just both on field and just with his intangibles, just understanding and handling the highs and lows of the sport. So I mean, it's one of those things where like you kind of, and I think it's one of those things, right, with the Messi World Cup finish, the Trout Ohtani final at bat in the WBC, Jordan Walker making the opening day roster is kind of one of those things that you thought like it's just going to happen. Like this is the way the MLB script writers planned it out. Like it just has to make sense this way. And yeah, I mean, and it did. And now he's, at 20 years old, is going to be at Busch Stadium, this Thursday. So it's really, and it's really an exciting time, because I mean, you always hear about the top prospect and what they can do. And not only is he a top prospect, I mean, in the Cardinal system, he's one of the top prospects in all of baseball. So for him to get a shot this early at making an impact to the big league club at that young of an age, even after having to switch from third base to the outfield and make this quick rush based on where he was last year. I mean, not play a game in Memphis, go from Springfield to the fall league to Cardinals opening day roster. Like, I mean, it's something that it's impressive. I mean, and he'll get a shot early to show what he can do on the big stage.
Yeah, there are definitely shades of that Albert Pujols 2001 spring training here. And it's so interesting, I guess, to see this right after Albert retires, after spending his last year in St. Louis. I think a lot of Cardinals fans are really hoping St. Louis slugger to the next. And so I think obviously that's a lot of expectations that are placed on Jordan Walker there. But you mentioned his intangibles, and I just want to mention that again. unbelievable. He has the maturity of 10-year vet already at the age of 20. And that's just something that's so much this to go check out some of his interviews. Go watch the way he addresses the press, especially the way he talks about himself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too with the way he handles interviews. I remember being at winter warm-up and, the way it works. I mean, Cardinals will bring different guys to the podium throughout the 3-day weekend of what it is. And Jordan Walker on the final day, his day at the podium, comes up and, he's fielding questions left and right. I mean, obviously a huge crowd of, reporters there present for that. And I don't remember who it was or, which, whether it's, publication or TV station or radio station or where he's affiliated with. But I remember somebody asked him like, how he was already so good at just answering questions and fielding questions and just the way he's responding. I mean, it's something that, like you said, I mean, he's beyond his years and maturity in a lot of different aspects. I mean, and the way he, like you said, handles questions in an interview type setting. I mean, yeah, you see it. I mean, it's like, okay, this guy, I mean, he's 20 years old, but he's way more mature than your average 20-year-old. And I think there are other guys in the Cardinals clubhouse that are like that at that young of an age as well. But it's like, man, it's like it seems like it's kind of rare to find that maturity with that young of a guy.
Yeah, and it is pretty incredible since, I mean, he is only 20 years old and he is the youngest Cardinal since Rick Ankiel to be called up to the Major League roster in 1999. But now that he has made the opening day roster, should we expect him to start every day moving forward?
See, now that's something that I wish I had a little bit more insight on, just because, I mean, and especially we know how the Cardinals have operated with their top prospects in the last few years. I mean, right, we're at a point last year, in April and May, or yeah, really in April and May, where people were, questioning, when is it that they're going to bring up Nolan Gorman? I mean, he had really slugged his way in Memphis. I mean, was one of the top hitters in the minors, especially when it came to just hitting home runs. I mean, I remember he had a stretch where he hit 5 homers in 5 consecutive games. And, I think he had 14 by the time he got called up. And that question was, if he's going to get called up, he's going to get regular playing time. I mean, the Cardinals typically will make sure that is going to be a viable option for their top prospect once he arrives to the majors. I mean, because and a part of that really is just because they're not getting regular playing time, then, that development, could stagnate if they're only, a part-time player. So with Jordan Walker, I mean, I think we can expect him to DH a lot. That is my assumption. I mean, obviously Juan Yepez was one of those guys in that conversation for the right-handed DH spot. So, I mean, and obviously he's beginning the year in Memphis, and Jordan Walker is going to be in St. Louis. So, I mean, I would expect Jordan Walker to get some regular reps at DH. When it comes to playing the outfield, obviously the Cardinals, they know that outfield. I mean, we'll see what it looks like on opening day, but I mean, I would assume Jordan Walker is going to be getting some, just regular at bats, at least to begin the year. I mean, and then obviously we don't know, or we'll see how he responds playing in the majors and how just kind of things start evolving. I mean, with the makeup of that regular lineup that Ollie Marmol puts out. I mean, because obviously, that opening day lineup, as best it is, that opening day lineup, right, is kind of the what you leave camp with, like that best 9 players you can put on the field first game of the season, but that evolves, right? I mean, we saw how that evolved this last year. I mean, Brendan Donovan was not on the opening day lineup last year, was not on the opening day roster, but was one of the most productive players down the stretch. I mean, and so, I mean, yeah, we'll get a good look at what kind of that beginning, I guess, part of Jordan Walker's MLB career will look like. And I would assume, he's going to be getting some at-bats pretty early.
Yeah. So Jordan Walker's made the opening day roster, but a lot of fans online and just in general have been kind of clamoring for Mason Wynn to be on the opening day roster as well. And I disagree with that a little bit, because I think he should still develop a little bit more in AAA with the bat. And that was the plan was never really to have Mason Wynn in AAA, so or in the majors. So What do you think we can expect out of Mason Wynn this season? Do you think he'll come up some point towards the end of the season, or do you think it's more of a 2024 sort of thing?
Well, it's kind of funny because if you ask him, like he'll talk about it like it's going to be a 2024 thing. I mean, he came into spring knowing that, or understanding that this might not be the year for him to be on the opening day roster, get to the majors, and he accepts that. And obviously, you look at the Cardinals shortstop situation, and you have, I mean, a Gold Glove caliber player with Tommy Edman there, and a guy who's a switch hitter and can get on base for you. When you look at just overall WAR and defensive WAR, I mean, he's one of those top players in the league. And also you look at, I mean, the backup, I mean, you have Brendan Donovan there, and you have Brendan Donovan playing Gold Glove defense at second. So I mean, yeah, so there's no immediate rush for Mason Wynn to get to the majors. And I understand it's the same thing with Jordan Walker, right? It's a shiny prospect who really, I mean, metrically and just visually kind of, just wows you, right? With Mason, with his throwing arm, with his speed, just kind of his baseball instincts on defense. I mean, it gets fans excited, and that's understandable. But this is another one of those guys where you have to have a little bit of patience, just because the situation doesn't really call for him to get to the majors right now. And being in Memphis, I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, it's something, that I think Jordan Walker, Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn this spring kind of accelerated a little bit of that timeline. I mean, he showed, I mean, with the bat that, he can be a really productive hitter. Somebody who can hit, lead off, I mean, get on base and with his speed, I mean, kind of get you runs and get that extra base on, balls hitting the gap or whatever it is. And also, showed a little bit of flashes of power. But I mean, yeah, I think being in Memphis is going to be great for him, just because, he's going to get regular at bats. He's going to play shortstop regularly. And I think that obviously that bats are the biggest one. I do, like I said, I do think maybe I know we talk about the bat. That's, really the tool that we're waiting to see kind of come along for Mason. And I think this spring we saw like, okay, maybe it's not that far off, where now you're thinking like, okay, I mean, if Cardinals are in a pinch and they need somebody to play shortstop, or some, they need a middle infielder. I mean, hey, maybe he's the guy and he's going to get regular reps later this year. And if you're not in the pinch, if, things work out where guys are healthy, there's not a need for that, you're sitting pretty comfortably thinking, okay, well, we're going to go into 2024 with, the shortstop of the future ready to contribute at the big league level.
I wanted to ask about another battle at the periphery of the roster here. So I know we've got the official roster released now, and it's actually been about a week since we heard about Dakota Hudson being optioned down to AAA. Where do the Cardinals stand with him right now, especially with this Wainwright injury happening? Because he lost that battle to Woodford, it looks like, for the last rotation spot. And I'm excited to see Woodford. I think a lot of Cardinals fans are ready to see him in this role because they've kind of danced around whether he's going to be a starter or not. But where do they stand with Dakota Hudson? What's his future with the club right now?
I will say with the Woodford thing and him making the opening day roster, obviously in kind of that spot that Wainwright would have been in, Ollie Marmol has, valued, what are you going to be able to do right now? And that's another one of those spring training performances where Jake Woodford looked really good. Yeah. He came in and was showing the organization all the things that they wanted to see out of him. And it's obviously well-deserved for him. But I mean, when it comes to Dakota Hudson, that's an interesting situation, right? I mean, he was a part of the opening day rotation a year ago. And it's one of those things where it's like, you kind of have to put into perspective where he was at coming back from Tommy John, right? Where it's like last year is kind of like that readjustment year. I mean, of having Tommy John, he comes back. I mean, he threw a lot of innings for somebody in their first full season coming off that injury or off that surgery. But I mean, he's going to go down to Memphis, and I think, if something happens where there's another guy down, I mean, he's kind of that next guy up. I mean, he's the guy, I mean, he's already on the 40-man roster, can be called up, has a big league experience, and, has shown that he can, be, a productive arm in that rotation. But I think he's, just kind of the next guy in line. Obviously you have to wait for that. I mean, in his situation, you have to wait for that opportunity to open up and, and get that call. And then obviously it's up to performance for you to stick around. So, I mean, that's just the way I've kind of seen it, right? Where he's, and it's not like he's forgotten. I mean, but he's part of that depth that the Cardinals have kind of lauded of like, they have, their 5 starters and they have some depth down in Memphis that, that can be productive if they call upon them. And Dakota Hudson's a part of that equation.
Yeah. And so where do you see Dakota Hudson in the pecking order here? Do you think he's ahead of Andre Palante in that?
I guess when it comes to being a starter, yeah. I mean, just because Dakota Hudson's more stretched out. I do still feel like Andre Palante, is kind of one of those guys and that will be kind of leaned on in the bullpen down the stretch of the season. But I guess when it comes to, like you said, I mean, in that pecking order, if like you're looking at Dakota Hudson as a bullpen pitcher or as somebody who you're going to slide into relief spot, I would probably put Andre Palante ahead of him, just because of what he did last year and that proven success coming out of the pen.
Yeah, and another name we wanted to mention was Matthew Liberatore. He had a great spring. We're just wondering, like, will he get a chance at a starting role next year when so many contracts are up? We know Miles Michaelis was just extended recently for 2 years, and we have Steven Matz signed through, I think, 2024, 2025. I can't remember. But do we see him as? Do we see Liberatore get a chance next year, or when do we think he'll be up?
Yeah, I think Liberatore is really looking at 2024 as I think a good shot to really stick around to opening that rotation. Obviously you talk about, I mean, you're obviously one guy in that rotation is retiring with Adam Wainwright. I mean, he'll be, he has said that this year is his final year. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of, at this moment, right, at the time of this recording, there are a lot of spots open on that rotation. That will be open on that rotation in 2024 because of contract situations. Obviously that can change, right? I mean, we saw it change just in the past couple of days with Miles Michaelis. But I mean, Matthew Liberatore, man, I probably should fact check this, but I think he's still only 23, which I know like Cardinals fans will say that when it comes to Dylan Carlson. It's like, okay, I mean, we've been saying he's only this age for so long, when is it going to start showing that potential of a top prospect start showing. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Matthew Liberatore, I mean, he's still very young. I mean, I think one of the things that kind of still intrigues me is that the fact that in 2019 he pitched in I think in high A and then made that jump to AAA in 2021 after the skip season in 2020. So I mean, there was a huge learning curve. Obviously he was kind of put into the situation, and I think we saw this spring that, now he's kind of catching up to the level of the league. And that's something the Cardinals always look for when they move guys up into the next part of their development is obviously performance dictates, how fast they're going to be pushed. But also their performance once they get to that next level is really what they're looking for. I mean, it's not just being up there, it's sticking around up there and proving that success. But I mean, yeah, you're looking at Matthew Liberatore as one of those other guys where, if something happens where you need a left-handed arm in the rotation or possibly even in the bullpen, but even then it's like there are obviously other left-handed arm options. But when you're looking at that rotation and say you need a lefty and you're looking down at that depth that they have, I mean, he I feel like he's kind of that next lefty starter up if they need it. And obviously like you said, when we go to 2024, I mean, he's a guy who, as it stands now, is in a good position to make his way on an opening day rotation.
I really love to hear that you're such a prospect guy. And so I wanted to ask you one more question just about the Cardinals farm system here. Is there anybody who you look at, especially guys kind of in the lower minors, where this is a year that they could jump onto some serious radars? Is there anybody you see that could be a really fast riser with a breakout season? For me, I'm looking at Jonathan Mejia. What do you think this year means for him? And then if there's one more guy that maybe people don't know about, who's somebody that we should pay attention to and watch for a breakout year?
Yeah, this will be a very interesting year for Mejia. I mean, we saw him in the saw the stats. I mean, obviously we can't watch the Dominican Summer League, but he debuted there. Got off to a slow start it's a short season, right? It's only 55 games, and I want to say like maybe the first 15, 20, it wasn't really what you expect to see out of a guy who, was a top international signing in 2022. And then he picked it up really. I mean, I want to say he hit like 320 something down in like the last like 30 something games, had doubled a lot, which I mean, I think you see for a lot of younger guys as that power still develops, where homers are kind of an important stat, but also, if you're seeing a guy hit a lot of doubles at that young of an age, like that eventually, once they get bigger, once they get stronger, those doubles turn into home runs. I mean, not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he'll be playing, figures to be playing stateside. He might start the year, and I would expect him to start the year in extended spring training, and then eventually either make his way into the Florida Complex League or even Palm Beach, maybe down the stretch. We saw that with just this last year, right? We saw that with like Leonardo Bernal, switch hitting catcher around the same age. And played, I think he played 45 games with Palm Beach. And in 2021, he was in the Dominican Summer League. We saw the same thing with Juan Bin Cho, who started the year in extended spring training, played in the Florida Complex League. Same thing as a teenager. So yeah, it is going to be an important year to kind of see, how he with Jonathan Mejia, how he reacts and can keep up with pitching here. Obviously in the Dominican Summer League, you're playing against guys who, he's playing against guys who are around the same age, right? 16, 17, 18-year-old guys, sometimes 19. And FCL, he's gonna get to see some more advanced pitching. Now, when it comes to somebody who maybe we haven't talked a whole lot about, that maybe at a point at the end of the season, we're like, man, that guy really did take some strides. I guess I'll throw out a couple of names. I think Joshua Baez is still an interesting name to keep tabs on. We didn't see him a whole lot last year because of the hamate bone injury. When he came back to Palm Beach, he was a pretty productive hitter for them. I think if we see, a full season of Joshua Baez, I think he's somebody who can kind of raise that prospect value of his, just based on performance at the plate. I think Juan Ben Cho is another really interesting name that we should keep tabs on. He's somebody who, same thing, was a pretty notable international signing in 2022. And it's a guy who, same thing. He's I think he's 19 years old, and has some, he's shown that he can hit the ball to the other, to the opposite field with some power. So that'll be kind of interesting. He's a left-handed swinging outfielder. Leonardo Bernal, same thing. It's another guy who is kind of raising his prospect value just in this last year. It seems like he's a kind of a little bit wise beyond his years as a catcher, which is when it comes to instincts of the game. Same thing, switch hitting catcher, has been able to hit with power, showed that this last season in Palm Beach. Those are a couple of the guys. I think the one maybe like not way off the radar, but, more off the radar guy who I think once we see more of him, we'll know, who he can be. And I think that's Alec Willis, who's 19 years old, right-handed pitcher. He was drafted in 2021 out of high school. We haven't seen him really pitch a whole lot just because, the way that development track for high school pitchers, we've seen that with Tink Hence, right? Where guys get, few innings and then gradually are increasing, and Tink is kind of set for maybe not a full season, but a really, a more complete season this year. And I think Alec Willis is a guy who, he appeared in the Complex League, pitched a handful of innings down there, and was effective in that. Once we see him this year, I think we'll get a better sense of, who he is.
Yeah, and one of those guys you mentioned was Tink Hence, who has one of the nastiest strikeout-inducing sliders I think I've ever seen. And I was just wondering, when do you think he'll be up in the big leagues? Will it be next year as well? Do you think he'll get a shot?
Man, so I think he's on a little bit farther of a timeline. I think just that's the nature of pitching, right? Where it's like, he was, drafted in 2020 out of high school, shortened high school season, did not go to the alternate site in Springfield that year. 2021, I think he pitched 8 1/3 innings in the Complex League. 2022, we saw a little bit more, but he still only pitched 52 1/3, I want to say, or something like that. But under 53 innings, right? So it's like, this year, I mean, I think his workload and obviously his success will kind of determine that, or not determine, but we'll get a better sense of what that ETA to Busch Stadium looks like. But I mean, he's somebody who I think, like you said, I mean, has really sharp stuff. I mean, same thing, another one of those guys like Mason and Jordan, very mature for his age and kind of understands the highs and lows of pitching at the pro level and what those lows really look like and what those highs look like and how to handle those things. But I think when you look at his ETA to the majors, that one, I think maybe we are looking a little bit more at like 2025 of him being not just in the majors, but in the majors in that spot in the rotation that you're kind of looking for. I mean, same thing. He's only 20 years old, so I mean, there's still a lot of innings for him to throw and a lot of things for him to prove. And I think I think where he finishes this year, we'll get a better sense of like, okay, where is he going to be next year? But I mean, when you look at that potential as a guy who can, be a top of rotation, I mean, Tin Cans is same thing, an exciting prospect, and I think fans should be maybe a little bit more patient on that timeline for him. I mean, as exciting as it is, I mean, it'll be maybe a couple of seasons until we're gonna really see him get to have a full shot at being in the majors.
Yeah, Sandy, I think unfortunately dropped off with more connection issues. Hopefully we'll get him back at some point, but he wanted to ask a question he just sent to me about Connor Thomas. Connor Thomas, I think, is a bit older than Tin Cans, definitely on his trajectory to the majors. So what do you think expectations for Connor Thomas are this year? Will he make his debut?
I think we could see him possibly fit into a bullpen role down the line. I mean, that's kind of what he had auditioned for in spring. I mean, there's still a possibility that, he can make I mean, I think he's a candidate who's somebody who can make a spot start at the major league level if you need him to. I mean, I'll just be more interested to see how because it'll be his third consecutive season pitching in Memphis. Obviously he reinvented kind of his arsenal and really himself at the Arizona Fall League when he kind of introduced this cutter he had been working on throughout the season, and that kind of gave him that push to being included on the 40-man roster and protected from the Rule 5 draft. Obviously this spring weren't the results that he was looking for, but I mean, I think he returns to Memphis in a spot where he's going to be getting regular innings as a starter, and he does have that potential of sliding into a spot start. Maybe he finds his way into a bullpen role at the majors, and that if I think it just depends on how that cutter balances out the rest of his arsenal. I mean, he got hit hard a lot by righties last year. That in the fall league, we saw kind of that small sample size of what that cutter could do for him, and obviously that's against some of the top prospects in baseball. But I mean, seeing that over a full season, I mean, I think there's a good shot that we see him in the majors. And I think, being in a bullpen role is a more likely scenario for him to stick around in.
Yeah. So we wanted to shift gears a little bit for our final question. We wanted to touch on the backup catcher dilemma that the Cardinals are facing right now. And Andrew Knizner, as we know, has been struggling a little bit this spring. In 47 at-bats, he's only been batting 128 and has a 340 OPS. And we know Tres Barrera is another interesting name there. He's done pretty well in 13 at-bats with an 883 OPS. And although his average has been down, he's been drawing a lot of walks. So what do you think is the situation there? And how long do you think Knizner's leash is going to be this spring and going into the season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we saw Knizner on the opening day roster as that backup, and that's something we had kind of already had a better sense. I mean, we kind of could project right at the beginning of the year. I think the fact that he has been kind of the backup the last couple of seasons, has that familiarity with a lot of the starters. Obviously him, if Miles Michaelis is pitching, more likely than not, Andrew Knizner's behind the dish. I mean, obviously because they have that connection, and I think Andrew Knizner just kind of has a trust of the Cardinal staff of being somebody who can be behind the plate. I mean, we'll see what his bat does, right? I mean, because that could kind of dictate, what it looks like when we're, in June and July, right? I mean, things can obviously change. But yeah, but I think Tres Barrera is another name to keep tabs on. I mean, when it comes to catching depth, obviously, you have your all-star caliber catcher, Wilson Contreras, and you have a backup in Andrew Kisner, and obviously you have depth down the farm. I mean, and Tres Barrera, does feel like he's kind of that third man in the depth chart. They're, I guess when it comes to like how far that leash goes, I don't really have a good sense on it. I kind of wish I did. Just to help answer that question and give some more insight. But I think Andrew Kisner is, is going to come in and with, those expectations, right, though, to be productive when he's called on. And obviously things do change, right? But I would expect at this moment Tres Barrera to be kind of that third guy in line.
Yeah. So I think we also wanted to touch a little bit on Ivan Herrera and like where his spot is. Do they still see him as a viable like catching option? Because I don't know. Like we saw him as potentially Molina's heir last season, but clearly he wasn't quite ready for that. So will he move into like a starting role at some point down the line, or is he a trade piece potentially?
Man, that's a good question. Just because I feel like same thing. He's another guy who is going to get an opportunity at Memphis to get regular innings, and I guess we'll see more of what he can do. I think they're still looking for him to be more productive at the plate. Obviously, when it comes to catching, they're different. Takes time, right, to kind of work on calling games and receiving and pitch framing, which I guess pitch framing really won't matter at the AAA level this year just because of the automated ball strike zone system. But when it comes to his bat, and it's something that he's acknowledged, that he's trying to be more consistent with it. I remember talking with him in spring. And he had mentioned that, he kind of was getting more in tune with like technology side of it. And he was seeing how the kind of how to improve his swings, like with those kind of like that type of analysis. And he felt like he had made some improvements and seen, improved exit velocities. And I think Cardinals still do have patience with him of, being able to kind of develop that. There's no rush right now, right? There's no hole at the catching position. You have a guy who you're going to expect to be behind the plate for the next 5 years. Or maybe not behind the plate entirely, but you have a guy who, at least in the next couple of seasons, you're expecting that. Obviously I think the catching demands have kind of changed at the big league level. We don't really see that, 130, games behind the plate by everybody across the league. And Wilson Contreras is a guy who you want his bat in the lineup regardless every day. And so the DH helps that. I do still think there's a possibility where, down the line, he kind of could be a part of that catching tandem with Contreras, depending on if he can really show that consistency at the plate that the organization is looking for.
Yeah, it sounds really great. Again, we love the work that you're putting out. We really appreciate you for coming on this podcast with.
Yeah. Thank you guys. It's cool that you guys do this.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on. Thanks everyone for tuning in with our chat with Dan Guerrero. Be sure to give him a follow on Twitter at @DanGuerrero and read his work for the Post-Dispatch. He's got tons of exclusive prospect news, stuff you can't get anywhere else. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcasts. Coming up later this week, we will be previewing the upcoming Toronto series, as opening day is this Thursday, March 30th. Get excited for that. We hope you enjoyed the show today, and please leave a like down below. Have a great day.